Today's lesson is called Slovakia, Central Europe's Hidden Gem. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
I'm Roger. Today we're going to be talking about a country in Europe, a country in Central Europe to be exact. Some people might consider this a country in Eastern Europe, but it's the country of Slovakia. Maybe you've heard of it. I've heard of the Czech Republic before, and I have heard of Slovakia, and it seems like more people go to the Czech Republic than to Slovakia, but still Slovakia is a wonderful destination in its own right.
Yeah, if you were to look at maps of Europe over the last 30 or 40 years, there would be a lot of change in this particular part of Europe. There used to be Yugoslavia, and then that broke up, and then there was Czechoslovakia, and that broke up, and now there's the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And apparently Slovakia is Central Europe's hidden gem, and I can attest that this is true. Now, I can't attest firsthand, but I can say that my brother has been to Slovakia, and he says that it was awesome. He had a very good time there. He thought it was beautiful, wonderful, great. He said it was quite the hidden gem. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Slovakia, Central Europe's hidden gem. Since splitting from Czechoslovakia and becoming an independent nation in 1993, the small Central European country of Slovakia has flourished. Today, this hidden gem tempts tourists with its historic buildings, memorable legends, and picturesque scenery.
大家好，标题中我们看到名词 gem 指宝石、瑰宝、难能可贵或受人喜爱的人或物。举例来说 Mary wore a ring that had a few fake gems on it. Mary 戴的戒指有几颗假宝石在上面。或是 Central Park is a real gem for the residents of New York City. 中央公园备受纽约市民的喜爱。另外补充一个相关片语 hidden gem 表示隐藏的美好事物。我们可以说 The gallery is one of the neighborhood's hidden gems. 这间画廊是社区里隐藏的好去处之一。接着我们看到单字 split 这个字是动词，指使分裂，使分开。像是 The teacher split his class into two groups for the debate. 老师将班上学生分成两组进行辩论。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字还有以下几种用法。第一，这个字可以当形容词，意思是分裂的。举例来说 Voters are split in their support for the two candidates. 投票者因为各自支持两名候选人而分成两派。第二，这个字也可以当名词，指份额、划分。例如 If you help me get my money back, I'll give you a 50-50 split. 如果你帮我把钱找回来，我就跟你对半分。再来，我们看到形容词 picturesque， 意思是风景如画的。例如 Megan visited several picturesque villages while traveling through Italy. Megan 在周游意大利时造访了几个风景如画的村庄。
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the history of Slovakia. Here in the first paragraph it says, since splitting from Czechoslovakia and becoming an independent nation in 1993, the small Central European country of Slovakia has flourished. So, yeah, when I was young, you always heard about this country in Eastern Europe called Czechoslovakia. Okay, I thought it was just one country, and it probably was, but there were two distinct regions in this country, and they had to be together for some reason or other. But once communism fell in Eastern Europe, these two countries decided to go their own separate ways. And they didn't fight about it at all. They said, okay, you can be your own country. We'll be our own country. No hard feelings. We can still be friends. So they split apart at that time. So here we've got the verb to split with the preposition from. To split from which basically means to separate from, but split also means to divide into two or more pieces.
Czechoslovakia becomes the Czech Republic and then Slovakia. Two distinct entities. They split apart, okay? And yes, it says here that Slovakia became an independent nation back there in 1993. And since then, this small Central European country has flourished. It has done remarkably well. It has done really, really well for itself. It's been very successful. By the way, that's what it means to flourish. If you flourish, you're very successful. You've done very well for yourself. You are doing A-OK. You are doing super. Now, today, this hidden gem tempts tourists with its historic buildings, memorable legends, and picturesque scenery. So, yes, if you go to this place, you are going to just love it. My brother loved the fact that it is a hidden gem, okay? Usually when people travel to Europe, they go to France or Germany, stuff like that. They don't really go and seek out these hidden and more obscure places like Slovakia. He did, though, and he loved this place. He thought it was a really, really great place. He'll remember it forever. It is a gem for him in his mind. Yes, it is just filled with historic buildings and legends that you will remember forever. Yes, if something is memorable, you will not forget that thing. You might just remember it forever.
Yep, I could say my first trip to Kaohsiung was very memorable. I had a fantastic time down there in Kaohsiung, going out to Qijing Island and checking out the lighthouse and riding their metro system and stuff like that. Oh, it's such a wonderful city. It's so memorable. But again, if you see pictures on the internet, you're going to be tempted to go to this place because these pictures will show historic buildings and maybe you'll get some information about these memorable legends, some of the history that took place in Slovakia. And also you're going to see some picturesque scenery. If something's picturesque, well, it's like a picture. It's like a painting. It's just beautiful.
It's like a postcard.
Looks like a postcard. You're going to see that and you're going to want to go there and take some pictures like that yourself.
There you go. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break. But when we come back, we're going to start our trip in Slovakia.
A great place to start your trip is the nation's capital, Bratislava. Walking through the cobblestone streets of the old town, you'll see perfectly lined rows of stately pastel-colored houses. Another must-see is the striking St. Martin's Cathedral, whose 85-meter tower dominates the skyline, making it easy to spot. Some believe the cathedral is haunted, saying that a ghost burned his handprint into a wooden beam in an attempt to prove his existence. Although the handprint was recently removed, the story hasn't been forgotten.
第二部分我们看到单字 stately 这个字是形容词，指雄伟的、庄严的，像是 The neighborhood is home to several stately mansions. 这个社区有好几栋华宅。另外补充一个同义形容词 grand, G-R-A-N-D, grand 指雄伟的、豪华的。例如 Veronica made a grand entrance when she arrived at the party. Veronica 抵达宴会时气派地进场。
Okay, now, like a lot of countries, you often start your trip in the capital city, okay? So, yes, indeed, when people come to Taiwan, the first city they check out usually is Taipei here in the north of Taiwan. If you go to China, you might go to Beijing, Tokyo in Japan, etc., etc. So, yeah, when you go to Slovakia here, you're going to start your trip in Bratislava. Although you may be coming in from adjacent countries by train or something, but this is still a good place to start your trip in that city. It's probably going to have lots of facilities that you're used to, and you can kind of ease into the country, and then once you're used to the capital city there, you can start heading out into the countryside.
There you go. Start your trip in Bratislava, walking through the cobblestone streets of the old town. You'll see perfectly lined rows of stately pastel-colored houses. When I think of stately, I think of a house where a noble person might live there because, yeah, that house, it's got a dignified manner to it. Wow, it looks noble to me.
Yep, they've got cobblestone streets there made out of stones or bricks. Probably kind of difficult to ride your bicycle over, so that's why you'll be walking on those streets in the old town. And yes, there'll be those stately pastel-colored houses there, which of course you'll want to take a selfie in front of. Another must-see is the striking St. Martin's Cathedral, which is a big Catholic church, and it's got this 85-meter tower. So yes, the cathedral is there, whose 85-meter tower dominates the skyline. So here, whose is just going back to that actual cathedral. You'll see this striking cathedral, and that cathedral has this 85-meter tower, which dominates the skyline. So like here in Taipei, of course, Taipei 101 dominates the skyline. It is kind of in control of the skyline or of all the buildings. It's like the most prominent feature, the thing you notice the most.
Yeah, it dominates. Okay, in that particular situation, in that place, it's numero uno, and, well, number two doesn't come even close. Very often when you look at chimpanzees in the wild, there is going to be an alpha male. He's in charge. He dominates everybody in that particular community of chimpanzees. I believe the same thing goes for apes and stuff like that. Anyways, some believe the cathedral is haunted, saying that a ghost burned his handprint into a wooden beam in an attempt to prove his existence. So there you go. There's one of those memorable legends that you are going to hear maybe if you visit this place, this wonderful place called Bratislava there in Slovakia. Now, although the handprint was recently removed, the story hasn't been forgotten. Yes, the story is just that memorable.
And the ghost might still be there. It's a haunted house. That ghost may come out with another handprint in the future. You just never know. If you're lucky, you might see that ghost when you go there yourself. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's now move on to the third part and talk some more about Slovakia.
The area also boasts a number of castles, the most famous of which is the impressive Bratislava Castle. This massive complex occupies the bulk of a hill by the Danube River and overlooks Bratislava, as well as the neighboring countries of Austria and Hungary. It is also worthwhile visiting the now ruined Devon Castle, whose famous watchtower, the Maiden Tower, is perched on a rock just below the castle. According to legend, a king locked his daughter in the tower to keep her from her lover. Overcome with hopelessness, she jumped to her death.
第三部分，我们看到动词 occupy 指占据空间或时间，占用，像是 Matt's music equipment is occupying way too much space in the garage. Matt 的音乐器材在车库内占据太多空间了，或是The art gallery occupies the site of a former factory. 这间艺廊使用了一间旧工厂的空间。另外，补充一个相关片语 occupy one's attention 表示占据某人的心思。我们可以说 This problem has been occupying my attention all afternoon. 我一整个下午都在思考这个问题。最后，我们看到单字 bulk 这个字是名词，指主体、大部分、大量、 像是 the bulk of 加名词就表示大部分的点点点。举例来说 The bulk of my day is spent on administrative duties. 我一整天大部分的时间都花在处理行政事务。
Okay, so we are in Bratislava. Let's go ahead and explore the area further. The area also boasts a number of castles, the most famous of which is the impressive Bratislava Castle. There you go. By the way, here we have the word boast. Here we are not bragging, though. If you brag or if you boast, you say, hey, I'm so awesome. I'm so cool. Look at my Ferrari. Am I not so cool? Am I not so great? That's what bragging is all about. You want to tell people about how great you are. You can brag or you can boast. But here, we're not talking about boasting in that way. If a place, let's say, has a feature that it is proud of, you can say that this place boasts that particular thing. It has something noteworthy, that this wonderful thing can be found there.
Yep, for example, I could say Kaohsiung boasts Taiwan's busiest port. Now, this massive complex occupies the bulk of a hill by the Danube River and overlooks Bratislava as well as the neighboring countries of Austria and Hungary. So, yes, this is a castle, but it is really, really big. It's huge. It's massive. And it's not just one building, but maybe several buildings. So we're calling it a complex, okay? So it's a massive complex, a castle with lots of smaller buildings and things like that, maybe even a moat or something like that. And it occupies the major part of this hill. So to occupy just means it's in that place. It occupies this position. We could say that the presidential palace here in Taipei occupies a large area in central Taipei. So this castle actually is situated or located on a hill, and it dominates that hill. It occupies the bulk of that hill. Bulk here just refers to the most or the largest portion of that hill. If you look at that hill, all you see is that castle, or at least mostly you see that castle.
So we're talking about a really big complex here with a lot of buildings, okay? It's next to the river there, and it overlooks the city, Bratislava, as well as the neighboring countries here of both Austria and Hungary. Now, it's also worthwhile visiting the now ruined Devon Castle, whose famous watchtower, the Maiden Tower, is perched on a rock just below the castle. So here we have this word watchtower. All right, let's say that you're watching something. That means you're looking over an area in this case. Would a watchtower then be a tower from which you could watch things there, Roger, or am I totally out of my mind?
No, you're not out of your mind. That's indeed what a watchtower is. Someone is up in that tower keeping an eye out on the surrounding area to make sure there aren't any bad people coming to attack your castle. So yeah, there's a famous watchtower there, which is called the Maiden Tower. And it's perched on a rock. Perch just means it's positioned high up in the air, like a bird can be perched up in a tree. And it's just below the castle there. So according to legend, a king locked his daughter in the tower to keep her from her lover. Hence the name Maiden Tower. A maiden was kept locked up in that tower. It sounds kind of like the story of Rapunzel. Rapunzel, let down your hair.
Okay, but that's a different story for a different time. Anyways, overcome with hopelessness. She didn't let down her hair or anything like that. She jumped to her death. So it's kind of a sad story, but still a memorable one. All right, folks, with that, today's lesson is now in the books, and it's time for you guys to hear from the Chinese teacher.
好，各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分的第一句有写到 The area also boasts a number of castles, the most famous of which is the impressive Bratislava Castle. 好，句子里面这个 which 指的是前面的 a number of castles。 那么他写到说 the most famous of which 就是表示说在那几座城堡当中最有名的，其中最著名的。好，那么像这样的用法呢，就是用带有修饰语的关系代名词去引导关系子句来对先行词做补充说明。好，我们来学习这样的用法哦。Which 当关系代名词，我们知道可以引导关系子句去补充说明前方的事物，也就是它的先行词嘛。那这时候我们还可以在 which 的前面加上量词啊、数字、百分比、最高级等等，加上 of 去表达它所占的比例。像如果我们说 two of which 什么什么，就表达说先行词其中2个怎么样怎么样。Some of which 就是先行词其中一些怎么样怎么样。The best of which 先行词其中最好的怎么样怎么样。1/3 of which 表示先行词当中1/3怎么样怎么样等等。好，那我们来造个例句哦。Dave has a huge collection of CDs, most of which were bought in the 90s. Dave 收藏了一大堆 CD, 大部分是在90年代买的。好，那这边我们就要提醒同学们，因为这个用法呢，我们是用关系子句去补充说明前方的先行词，说明它其中有一些啊，有多少是怎么样怎么样的，这在补充说明，是属于非限定的用法，所以记得关系子句要用逗号跟句子隔开哦。好，同样在课文第3部分有一个句子写到It is also worthwhile visiting the now ruined Devon Castle. 好，句子里面用到 worthwhile 这个形容词，它是表达值得花时间的、花精力的，或是花金钱的，或者是可以形容是有价值的。那我们可以用的句型是 It is worthwhile 加上不定词或动名词来表达什么什么是值得的。那也可以把它写作 It is worth one's while加上不定词或动名词来强调值得某人做某事。好，那特别注意刚刚讲的这2个句型当中 it 都是虚主词，真正的主词就是我们后面加的不定词片语或是动名词片语。像我们课文里面它真正的主词就是 visiting the now ruined Devon Castle， 那我们用 worthwhile 来形容它，说参观现今已损毁的这个 Devon Castle 是很值得的。好，那我们来造个例句哦。It is worthwhile to visit the Chimay Museum. 也可以说 It is worth your while to visit the Chimay Museum. 参观奇美博物馆是很值得的。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Split. After a disagreement among its members, the band split into 2 groups. Flourish.Dominic began to advertise his products online, thus causing his business to flourish. Memorable. The author's books are popular because she creates such memorable characters. Dominate. A large flat-screen TV dominates the wall of Megan's living room. Boast. The art museum boasts some of the most important paintings in the world. Massive. The wealthy celebrity owns 5 massive houses in California.Occupy. Most of the space in Sam's bedroom is occupied by plants. Bulk. Sydney spent the bulk of her winter vacation skiing in Europe.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you guys enjoyed reading and learning along with us. I am Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.